I want to call this regular meeting of City Council of April 7th to order. Um, Len Collins is going to be leading us in the invocation.
This Psalms 5:11 through 12. Let all those that put their trust in you rejoice. Let them ever shout for joy because you defend them. Let them also that love your name be joyful in you, for your Lord will bless the righteous. With favor will you surround him with a shield. Father, we thank you that we can come to you boldly and humbly. We pray that we are not shaken by the troubles that face us, and we find refuge in you. We pray you shelter and protect our city and its leaders during this time of distress. Let us hide in your presence and in the shadow of your wings. Lord, surround our mayor, our city leaders with your favor as a shield, for we put our trust in you, especially in this time of the unknown. God bless our country, our state, and our city. Amen.
Thank you, Len. Could I have a roll call, please?
Mayor Hall,
Here.
Vice Mayor Judd,
Here.
Councilmember Sanders,
Here.
Councilmember Remley,
Here.
Councilmember Duffy,
Here.
Councilmember Winters,
Here.
Councilmember Hayden. Here. Thank you.
Would you all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I've got two proclamations to read this evening. The first proclamation is regarding Fair Housing Month. Whereas the Civil Rights Act of 1968, the Fair Housing Act, and the Fair Housing Amendments Act of 1988 ensure full and fair access to housing opportunities. And whereas shelter is a basic human need, and when shelter is denied, the quality of human life is greatly diminished. And whereas people must not be denied equal access to and enjoyment of housing because of race, color, national origin, religion, sex, disability, or familial status. And whereas the City of Surprise recognizes and values the efforts of those who seek to identify and eliminate barriers to full and fair housing opportunity. And whereas April is designated as National Fair Housing Month, now therefore let it be resolved that I, Skip Hall, Mayor of the City of Surprise, do hereby proclaim the month of April as Fair Housing Month in the City of Surprise, and encourage all citizens of the City of Surprise to work for tolerance and equal opportunity in our community. The next proclamation is Water Awareness Month. After I read the proclamation, Amy Peterson from the City of Surprise Water Conservation will call in to say a few words about the water proclamation. The Office of the Mayor. Whereas water is one of Arizona's most vital and precious resources, and whereas Arizona is an arid state where water is scarce and population continues to increase our demand for water, and whereas all citizens of Arizona and visitors should use water more efficiently, as practicing a low water use lifestyle is a way that each individual and business can help ensure a long-term sufficient water supply. And whereas water education is a cornerstone to any comprehensive water conservation program, and greater awareness of water issues can be gained through community education, action, and celebration. Whereas the City of Surprise Water Resource Management Department offers residents free landscape workshops, water conservation materials for indoor and outdoor water use, landscape efficiency rebates, and encourages water conservation this month and every month of the year. And whereas the Water Resource Management Department is committed to delivering high-quality potable water and managing its water resources to meet the needs of its current and future customers. Now therefore I, Skip Hall, Mayor of the City of Surprise, do hereby proclaim April as Water Awareness Month in our community and encourage all residents to pledge to continue to use water wisely this month and every month of the year. Amy, are you there?
Hi, thank you, Mayor Hall. Water is a serious subject in Arizona. The availability and quality of our water supply is critical to our quality of life and our state's status as a world-class destination. Water Awareness Month started in 2008 with an executive order by the governor of Arizona. The Arizona Department of Water Resources has created a website, waterawarenessmonth.com, which is overflowing with ideas, activities, and lesson plans to help adults and kids learn more about water conservation and become more aware of our state's most precious resource. The City of Surprise is among the 50-some Water Awareness Month partners committed to educating the public about water efficiency and conservation. We offer water efficiency rebates, free landscape workshops, and conservation and resources-themed presentations to our schools. You can find details about our current program offerings, as well as links to free online resources on our conservation webpage, surpriseaz.gov/waterconservation. Amidst the current global event in which we're spending most of our time at home, it's essential that I convey how safe and secure our water supply is. Our utility plans has plans in place that we regularly revisit and revise. We continuously monitor and test the water, both on-site and remotely, throughout the treatment process and the distribution system to ensure its quality. We are also taking extra precautions to protect the health and safety of our employees, to ensure operations will continue without interruption, regardless of how the situation evolves. We are protecting all aspects of this precious resource. There are many ways for residents to help us protect our water supply, whether it be through efficient use both indoors and outdoors, or by practicing responsible flushing. I encourage you all to learn more at waterawarenessmonth.com, and most importantly, stay home, stay healthy, stay connected. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Okay, next we have City Manager report.
No report this evening, Mayor.
Okay. City Clerk report. Do you have anything, Sherry? No report, Mayor. Okay. Next is call to the public. Do we have anybody that wants to speak to the council on a non-agendized item?
We do not, Mayor.
No? Okay. Okay, next is our consent agenda. We have 11 items on the consent agenda. Does anybody want to pull anything on the consent agenda? No? I'll entertain a motion then.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those we're going to do a voice vote. So all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay. So we have, there's nothing on the public hearing regular agenda. There's one item on the non-public hearing. Could you read that item for us, Sherry?
Yes, I will. Presentation and discussion pertaining to the city's response related to COVID-19.
Okay. Welcome, Tracy.
Thank you, Mayor. There we go. Well, Mayor and Council, thank you for this opportunity to share some of the good work we've been doing. It seems like for a long time, but really for the last month or so. Just wanted to share some of our efforts, let you know how we've been doing in handling our response to the COVID-19 pandemic, and give you an opportunity to ask questions about any of our activities that we've been engaged in. Thought I'd start with the timeline because it seems like we've marked time here with some big timeline markers. I think everybody knows the coronavirus was first spotted in China towards the end of last year. By January 11th, China had reported its first death. And at that time, I think we all thought this illness seemed just so far away and not something that we'd be dealing with. Just a short 9 days later, the first case was reported in Washington State, and that was easily identified as a travel-related illness. Somebody had come in from China. Then just a short time later, 6 days, we had our first case here in Arizona. It was in Maricopa County, and you may recall that was the Arizona State University positive case. And Arizona State University engaged in their pandemic response plan. Ended up being a great opportunity for the rest of us here in the Valley to understand how they handled and dealt with their response on campus. Just 4 days later, the WHO, the World Health Organization, declared a global health emergency. Now, this is an important kind of a detail or a fact. Usually, the WHO declares a global health emergency before something has become global or a global pandemic. We fully expected for this to be declared a pandemic at this time. It had reached multiple countries. It had traveled across, the ocean, so to speak, and it was fully a pandemic. But at that time, the World Health Organization felt like it was in control enough that they weren't going to call it a pandemic at that time. And you'll see as we move forward, they pretty quickly changed their mind. A day later, after the health emergency was declared, the U.S. restricted all travel from China. And then you'll see the asterisk here, February 10th, City of Surprise started their engagement. We pulled out our pandemic plan, and we started reviewing that. I was Chief Espy, myself, some other key players, Gina Busby, our HR partners, and we started looking at if we clearly understood our pandemic plan, starting to get ready for we didn't know what at that point. And then we looked at our closed point of distribution plan. I think most of you know, but in times where a vaccine becomes available, municipal government sometimes gets vaccinated first, and that's called a closed point of distribution. That's where we're able to vaccinate our public safety, our first responders, so that they can stay well and respond to the incident. So we started looking at our closed point of distribution plan, and that was another opportunity for us to sort of get our minds set for what we were about to engage in. February 29th, the first U.S. death. So you think in terms of what Surprise was doing, and we had started just the first week of February preparing. It would take another 19 days before the U.S. would see its first death. By March 4th, city manager and staff really felt like it was time for us to start formalizing our response. We had been talking a lot one-on-one. I was speaking a lot with our public works folks, doing sanitizing of our facilities, really kind of thinking about how we could prepare for what might be a spread coming our way. But we formalized it. We formed a task force. That task force met the first time on March 4th. We thought we would meet once a week, but pretty quickly knew that we were going to end up meeting a couple of times a week just to talk about various aspects of preparation. A lot of great ideas came out of the task force, and we were able to handle the tasks that came out of that task force without having to broaden our sphere or our gathering. It was a footprint of about 20 people when the task force finally graduated into the next phase. And then pretty quickly afterwards, March 11th, U.S. blocked most visitors from continental Europe. That was an eye-opening event for us. And then, as I alluded to before, March 11th, the World Health Organization recognized that this illness was out of control, and they, in fact, declared the pandemic. It's long after it had become a pandemic by definition. We were waiting for that declaration because that actually is a trigger for some of the things that we do here in Surprise with our pandemic plan. So in March 11th, in preparation for what we might suspect would be a reduced workforce, we sat down with all of our directors in a meeting, and we reviewed our continuity of operations. So this is our business continuity. How do we provide essential services to our community, the city of Surprise, with a reduced workforce? So in continuity of operations plans, you simply look at what your essential services are, who the people are that support them, and then how do we keep performing those should some of those people, in this case, become ill. So a great review on understanding what we really needed to keep running should we experience a reduction in workforce due to the illness. That same day, later in the day, the governor declared the state of an emergency. That obviously engages some dollars and some financial support our way as we move through taking care of addressing the illness. March 13th, the U.S., so the president declared a national emergency, and that made the FEMA funds that we're talking about now available. And it lifted some healthcare standards to allow more flexibility in treating the virus. So it allowed different healthcare workers to engage in treatment, and it allowed different, more flexibility in the strategies that were used to address the virus. And then, as this body knows very well, March 19th, the City of Surprise declared the state of emergency, and we closed City Hall, and we reduced city services to by appointment only. The back conversation on a lot of that was to make sure that we still maintain the city services that keep our city running economically, as well as the business practices. So that was well thought out, and we were able to engage in that decision once the mayor made this decision, because we had done the continuity of operations and we knew what we needed to keep moving. So March 22nd, we broke down that that task force, and we decided to move into what's called a National Incident Management System incident management team. So I know you've all heard the term NIMS, but this is really a different way of us managing the event. NIMS basically is a national approach to incident management, and it is a format practiced across the country, and it enables us to be scalable in our response. So let's say we all became ill and we couldn't handle response to this incident. Because we set up in a NIMS format, another agency could come in and take over our plans, and we would still experience a continuity of government. So this is something that we use to do surprise party. This is the format that we use to do our baseball games. It's an organizational structure that allows us to specialize, focus on key issues, and really execute more precisely in some of our objectives specific to, in this case, the pandemic. Make one note before we really get into our organizational chart, but when you use NIMS, normally it's because of a physical activity. It's either a planned event, it's a weather event, it's flooding, it's a tornado, it's something where you have boots on the ground and operational activities to manage. This has been a really unique experience because we are at almost 100% managing administrative tasks. So the people who normally come to bear in an incident management format like this, the police officers, the firefighters, the public works, the sports and tourism folks, they're kind of on the outside looking in, watching finance department, economic development, HR, and really supporting them in these efforts. And I have to say, all of these folks have risen to the occasion and really delivered superior work. So just give you a little bit of an idea of how this organizational chart works. You're used to seeing our city structure with our city departments and all those reporting relationships. That structure still exists, but for our COVID response, we engage in this structure. So our incident commander is Mark Schott. He is, for all intents and purposes, leading our direction. He's helping set priorities. He's basically keeping all these plates spinning. He doesn't do it alone. He has a deputy incident commander. In this particular case, that's me. And then off to the left there, you see senior advisors. That's Chief Abbott, Chief Young, and Mike Gent. Those are our subject matter experts for the city. How do we keep the city running, and how do we fill and flow and support each other as we move through the dynamic environment that is this event. And then you see under me on the organizational chart, we have a continuity of operations plan administrator. And I tell you, we are looking at our continuity of operations every day and making sure that we're still keeping essential functions running. So that's how we manage that. Across the bottom there are our section chiefs: finance section, HR section, logistics section, planning section, ops section, and city continuity. I'm going to talk about each one of those in a second here, but if you look down below and you see how it's all broken out, we've got purchasing, we've got procurement, we've got legal contracts under finance. You can imagine the conversations that have gone around with our HR section about Family Medical Leave Act, keeping track of who's able to come to work and who's teleworking, keeping track of who may become ill later and how we backfill those positions to keep city services going. Heavy lift by finance and HR. They've been doing some amazing work. They've created some tracking documents. And I tell you, my hat's off to Andrea Davis. She's been wearing 2 hats. As you know, just last Friday, she was here all day presenting the budget. And she and her team have also been engaged in this process for the last 3 weeks. So amazing work by the finance section. Logistics essentially is helping us with supply chain. And our planning section, if Mark Schott's the brains of the operation, the planning section is the heart of the operation. They're the ones that set our activities for the day. They produce our incident action plans, what we're going to work on. They keep everybody focused, and they've really kept this plan moving. Our operations section is handling special tasks, and I'll talk a little bit about that. And then the secret sauce, I like to call them, the city continuity section. They're doing community outreach and they're doing business outreach to make sure that we're helping our community thrive in this very uncomfortable time. Talked a little bit about the finance section. You can imagine we have legal contracts that we have to execute. We have emergency purchasing and procurement. You've all heard about the shortages with masks, and we're trying to go to different companies, and we're trying to, in some cases, we have to engage in sole source vendor processes, and the emergency declaration, Mayor, that you made allows us to do that. It gives us certain provisions that allow us to deviate from our normal processes. Expense tracking. So as you know, this is a federal declaration. We'll have access to funds from the Stafford Act, but we have to track those expenses, and we have to meticulously track those expenses, because when we apply for them, we will then get audited, and we will want to show that we had these people engaged in these activities using these vehicles and these resources each and every day. So finance is helping us track that. And then we also want to know what that financial impact is outside of FEMA tracking. How are we doing as a city? How is our economic, what does our economic picture look like, and how is it impacted by the virus? And that's one that we will probably be engaging in that long after the coronavirus has been stamped out or reduced. That's the recovery piece that we'll probably be looking at, I would imagine, for a couple of years to come. So our human resource section, I talked about leave tracking, monitoring leave associated with the illness, documenting the work hours spent addressing the response. So that's reimbursable too, and we hope to recoup a lot of our work hours that we've addressed COVID, because obviously we've been working on that and not some of our other duties. The employee care and wellness outreach resources, this is a big one, and I know you all have had this on your mind too. How are our employees doing? How are our families doing? They've got kids at home. They don't have childcare options. Very stressful. In some cases, maybe we have somebody who works for the city, but their spouse or their partner has been laid off, so there might be financial issues, and we're really trying to keep the doors open, keep the dialogue going to support our employees. This is, as you know, very, very, very stressful, emotionally as well as just intellectually and financially. They developed work from home policies and strategies, and we'll talk about in our logistics section here in a little bit. But this working from home isn't something you snap your fingers and you're able to do, right? You have to have laptops. Not everybody has one. Tracy in IT was able to pull some laptops out of basically the mothballs. They were slated to be converted or gotten rid of. We were able to resurrect those, and they can perform a lot of tasks for some of our employees who are working from home. And then we're also engaged from a human resources perspective on training on a lot of the documentation that we're completing, and training on performing these work tasks from home. Logistics is working hard. I don't know that we'll ever get on top of getting enough personal protection equipment for our staff. Masks is a big issue. We're doing okay on gloves. We track how many of all of these things that we use daily. But they've gotten really resourceful. Using some of our local contacts, they've reached out to try to source some of this equipment. Before about IT resources, hardware, software. We had to add servers so that we could support off the network those working from home individuals who may be working from a home firewall or a home internet connection, where we wanted to make sure that our IT security here was honored. I know you all know we have an IT security person who is very committed to her job, and she was very helpful in making that happen so we could work safely from home. And again, I say we track the burn rate of all of our critical supplies and try to keep those sources replenished. That's going to be a constant job throughout this process. Talked a little bit about the planning section, but these are the folks that help us keep on task every day. They help us refine our objectives. I will tell you that by last Sunday, we felt like we had finished our response to this incident, and now we're doing maintenance and anticipating some of the next issues that we might have. Mainly, we could have employees start to fall ill, and then we'll start having to redeploy resources possibly to support essential functions. So they're also facilitating through the daily exercise, teaching the NIMS model to a lot of folks that probably would not have learned about NIMS absent this response to this illness. Our operations section, they're maintaining an outward picture on healthcare, how many beds, how many respirators, how it is we develop processes to deliver the ill to the hospitals. We're monitoring testing locations. We're making sure that we have enough CDL drivers to drive solid waste vehicles should we have illness. A lot of strategies for essentially gathering information, delivering that information as intelligence, and helping us just stay one step ahead of some of these trends. So city continuity, I mentioned this was the secret sauce of our response, and I've broken this display into our community outreach and our business outreach. And I imagine you might have some questions about this, and I know we've got our city continuity section members on the line should you have questions. But this is a very short summary of a whole lot of work they're doing, but we're engaging with our human services partners to continue to provide meals and services to vulnerable populations. As you know, through our senior center and through some other services, we've been able to continue to provide meals to our seniors. We're engaging with business partners to provide comfort items to the community. At some point when the big rush on toilet paper happened, we had a lot of seniors that were reporting that they did not have the resources to continue to go to store after store after store, and we were able to help some of those folks get those essential items. Identify resources and messaging for our community. The messaging, and I think you all are all aware of it, the C-RED Get Fed banners that we supplied to a lot of the communities has also helped our community understand who was serving food and where they could get those resources. We also started engaging in messaging when we learned about the senior shopping hours for a lot of our grocery stores, again, outreach to our community. And then we of course know that a lot of people are having to apply for unemployment insurance now. So we're trying to support them through that application process. Very dicey because that's a face-to-face interaction. People are coming down to the center and using computers. So we've really had to modify our processes there. And then the other half of it is our business outreach. We hit the ground running, liaisoning with our business community to understand their challenges, see if we could maybe get rid of some of those obstacles for them. Minimize financial loss to restaurants through the C-RED Get Fed banner program. Communicate with the grocery stores to understand supply chain impacts. You know, I think we all started wondering when when supplies weren't replenished in the grocery stores, was that a restocking issue or were they really having supply chain issues? And through some great relationships, we were able to call up to the corporate level and understand it really was about restocking, not about an interruption in service or a particular item that wasn't in supply. And I think we, for the most part now, can walk into stores and all the cupboards aren't bare. I know the toilet paper aisle is still bare, but we're seeing a lot more resources come in. Part of that is because the National Guard has offered their services, and I know all the Bash's stores have taken them up on that offer, and we've got some local food banks here in Surprise that have taken the National Guard up on that order. And then we continue to enhance our webpage, both for the community facing and the business facing, to provide resources essentially, and those resources come to us every day, so we're constantly updating that picture. So back to our org chart, off to the side, there's 3 people that are considered what's called command staff. They report directly to the incident commander. Talked about the senior advisors, that's Mike Gent, and our police chief and our fire chief, Chief Abbott and Chief Young. Our PIO, again, a heavy lift. Virginia and her team, webpage, messaging, social media, keeping things current, interfacing with the various section chiefs about messaging, interfacing with you all about messaging so that you can keep things current going out to your constituents. And then quite a few internal and external announcements as we closed parks, as we made some amenities not available, as we closed City Hall, as we advertised how people could still conduct business at City Hall. My compliments to our PIO group. They have done an amazing job, and dare I say, without a single mistake or misprint or misinformation, they've done a fantastic job. Legal, we've had a lot of discussions making sure that we're playing by the rules, that we're adhering to the law while we try to serve the city, and we can't do it without our legal advisors. Not only just basic purchasing, but our statutory requirements when we're in a state of emergency. And then finally, our safety officer, as you can imagine, all the hand washing, all the protocols, all the masks, how to get them on, how to get them off, how to store them, how to stay clean, how to stay well, how to clean your workspace. All of that stuff has come from our safety team. That's our 2 folks in our risk management, Digger Oster and Michelle Casciato. Again, doing a ton of work to just keep us safe, and they put a safety message in our daily incident action plan just to help us be mindful of keeping that safe distance and trying not to gather and behave in ways that hopefully will ensure our longevity as we move forward. So a lot of things have happened since we created this PowerPoint over a week ago. We've had some governor executive orders come out that have now done the what they call the face coverings that we're asked when we're out in public and can't minimize our social distancing for everyone to wear face coverings. Those are the non-medical, non-PPE, made at home from materials, things that really help people who wear them from not making other people sick. One of the biggest things that's come out in the last, I'd say, week or so is that we have, for a couple of reasons, but we have this awareness now that there are many people who are walking around feeling like they're well, believing that they're well, and they truly are virus carriers, and they're, although not ill, spreading the virus. So this cloth face covering really kind of eliminates the ability for unwitting people to spread the virus. So I encourage everybody, when you're out in public and you can't minimize your social distancing, put the mask on, because you're helping out your loved ones, you're helping out people that are around. Those masks aren't going to protect you necessarily, but it does minimize the spread, and that's one of the big new bits of information that we've received. So I've covered quite a bit. I don't know if you have questions of me or of any of our incident staff, but I'm happy to cover it.
I got a question, Tracy. How often do you meet as a group? Daily?
Yes, daily.
Daily.
We meet in the morning to set our plan, and then we reconvene at 4 o'clock in the afternoon to approve and agree that we will carry out the plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any way that we could get minutes to those meetings so that we're up to date real time?
So we don't keep minutes necessarily, but what we talk about is the actual incident action plan and the objectives, and we could share the objectives with you. We could share
Okay.
the high level stuff with
Yeah.
you to let you know what we're working on.
That would be
We're
good.
working on 8 objectives right now. I'd love to share those with you.
That'd be great.
Yeah,
'Cause
those are our areas of focus.
Because I mentioned, well, you educated me on one thing. We had a constituent who is NIMS trained,
Uh-huh.
who wanted to be part of your team. He lives in Vice Mayor Judd's district, and he used to be the IT
Yes.
director here at
Yes.
Surprise. Anyway, and then you educated me on that you'd worked on contingency plans for hospital beds and
Yes.
locations and all this. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
you know?
he was suggesting an overflow using the main facility in Mark Coronado Park, and
Right.
so yeah, we had already identified through our relationship with Ottawa University and through our Parks and Rec and through our relationship with the Red Cross quite a few overflow shelters, and then through our relationship with economic development, we've got a lot of business owners that have large empty facilities sitting vacant that would be happy to allow, should we need it for overflow for well people or ill people.
Right.
They've come forward and offered their space. No shortage of that generosity, which is really nice.
Okay. Well, if you could do that, just send it to Jody,
Yes, sir.
and she'll get it out to us.
Yeah,
You know?
I'd love to.
It would just be a real time thing where we could. know
Yeah.
what you're working on. you
Yeah,
know? It's good
absolutely.
stuff.
Well, that would help you understand too, in case you became aware of
Right.
opportunities that we could leverage to
Right.
accomplish our goals. Absolutely. I would really appreciate that.
Any other questions or comments?
I
Councilman
just have
Remley?
one comment, and Tracy, I think we've expressed this before, but we are so thankful that you're on the job.
Thank you. I'm grateful.
We're so thankful for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, Ken wanted to hire you a couple years ago.
Yeah,
he lost that vote.
Everybody came around. Right? Timing is everything.
That's right. So anything else? You got something, Councilman Sanders?
Yeah, I got a question. Thank you very much for all of this and taking care of our residents. That's the biggest part. I know there were a lot of people concerned, and they still are, rightfully. And just out of curiosity, do you know what the volume of first responder calls has been since all of this? I mean, have they gone up? Have they been flat? Do you have any idea?
Are you thinking fire calls or police calls?
Yeah, both, I guess.
I believe Chief Abbott's on the line. I do believe that calls have gone up, and we know through modeling that fire calls will go up. I believe we are about the same with public safety calls. Chief Abbott, are you on the line?
I am, Tracy. How are you this evening?
I'm doing great, sir. We're experiencing a little bit of a call increase for medical calls.
Tracy, Mayor, Councilman Sanders, the actual answer to that is our call volumes dropped somewhat for a variety of reasons. It's all anecdotal at this point, but we do believe that some of it is the fact that people are out and about as much, and we're not experiencing the heavy traffic volume that we would normally experience right now. As far as our COVID calls, we are getting them. I'd say there's probably been about 35 over the last 20 days, something along those lines. So we are experiencing patients with at least the symptoms of what we consider to be COVID experience or exposures.
Thank you, Chief Abbott. Yeah, we, through our dispatch, they triage now, especially on the fire side, but fire and police both, they triage the calls to understand if somebody may be symptomatic. And then that gives our fire responders or our police first responders the opportunity to engage in applying some protective measures before they even approach a residence or illness. That's not going to be reliable all the time because we do have asymptomatic folks out there that don't present as being ill with COVID. They could be in a traffic accident or, some other issue that they require medical help, but it is helping that we're getting things triaged.
Yeah, and in the finance section, you talked about expense tracking, and is that so? Any sort of, I guess, reimbursement or money received from the Fed, is that just from expenses through this? Is it lost revenue because of this? Do you have any idea?
It doesn't cover lost revenue. It will reimburse us, I believe it's at 75% for expenses directly related to COVID. So that would be PPE, it would be cleaning supplies, it would be anything that we needed to establish ourselves in this reactionary position. It would be work hours, reportable work hours, and associated personnel costs. So we would not be able to recover lost revenue. For instance, I would imagine sports and tourism has a pretty good idea of what we lost when we lost baseball. That would not be a recoverable expense. So if you listen to the news, it sounds like we might get baseball back. I don't know how that's going to work, but it is worthwhile to pursue, especially given how long we think this event will last.
Yeah.
So we're tracking along multiple lines, hoping to recover at least some of those costs.
Good. I agree with you. Thank you.
We've also got some grants out there already that are coming in that are also other opportunities to recover costs, mostly around the same thing, protective equipment and technology supporting response.
Good. Thank you.
So,
Through the chair.
yes, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Tracy. This has been a lot of work, a mountain of work, and this presentation again is, I'm sure, just a tip
Yes.
of everything that's
Yes, it
going on
is.
behind the scenes. I have a couple of questions. You had mentioned when a vaccine eventually becomes available, our first responders, our police and our fire are going to be vaccinated. So we have a plan in place to distribute those vaccines?
So essentially, you develop what's called a closed point of distribution plan, and then if you were to ever receive a vaccine, it would be distributed by the government, and we wouldn't anticipate that for 9 months or more. But yeah, we have a plan where we would secure the vaccination. We would, according to HIPAA laws and all the various medical requirements, we would provide the immunizations, do record keeping, all of that sort of stuff to make sure that if a vaccine is available, that our first responders would receive it. Yes.
And then are we doing any planning if a vaccine does become available? It's going to be something that everybody wants. So are we doing any planning on how that would get distributed? Is that something the city would be involved in, or is that strictly hospitals, doctors? I mean,
It would be led by the state Department of Health and our Maricopa County Department of Health. It would be supported by the city of Surprise. So they would essentially understand or plan how much vaccine they were going to get, how they want to distribute it. They may decide that it needs to go to vulnerable adults, those 65 and over with an underlying health condition. They would set the standards. They likely would identify the locations where the vaccine would be distributed. This is all theoretical. This is just what we anticipate from creating a plan. And then, yes, we would want to support however that was needed. The National Guard is always a state resource as well to help support that type of an activity. It would be a very large planning effort, and I would imagine that's some of what the state and the county would be working on in the next 6 months or so. But yes, we're ready to support it. Had that conversation with the planning section this morning, as a matter of fact.
good. And then so are we maintaining some sort of list of healthcare volunteers, some sort of army we can put together to also help do this?
It's a little bit hard to do that, but you're on the right track. It's difficult to understand what the requirements would be, not knowing what the vaccine would be. So in other words, if it's administered, let's say with a needle, that requires someone with nursing skills. But if it's, let's say, an oral medication, that's something different. I wouldn't know or theorize how that's going to happen. But yes, we would try to leverage either nursing staff, paramedics, nursing students, and then county health, state health would set the requirements for those healthcare professionals who would administer the medication. So a lot of that is not known to us, but we certainly can think in terms of site security, crowd management, ingress and egress of vehicles, some of those things that we're specialists at in the public safety area, developing a plan so it happens efficiently and supporting however that rolls out.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you, sir.
So Tracy, are you in constant communication with the two hospitals that are near us, Boswell and Del Webb?
So we don't necessarily communicate, although yes, communication has occurred. So there is a resource, a statewide resource, where the hospitals contribute daily to bed space, ventilators, capacity, ICU, those sorts of things. So we monitor that daily, and that's part of our intelligence. So we have a sense. That gets briefed to our fire medical unit. So Chief Abbott is made aware of that every day. And then we have a hospital liaison, Jesus Rivera, in the fire department. And he has the ability to do outreach to the hospitals. Just check in with them and make sure they have everything they need, that we understand their delivery protocols for ill persons that might be COVID positive. So yeah, that relationship exists. We do, I would say, more monitoring than communication. But that said, the lines of communication are definitely open.
I see, good.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
So-
it's really helpful.
Yeah, no kidding.
It is. It's helpful to understand what their needs are. We've also been connecting local hotels near the hospitals because they're offering reduced rates for hospital employees who maybe don't want to go home. Maybe they're worried about making their families ill. And so we've been able to establish that as a resource so that the hospitals know that that's available to them. And it's, of course, generous for the hotels to offer that reduced rate so people can keep their families safe as well. A lot of
Excellent.
dynamics with the healthcare workers and how they're trying to not bring things home to their families.
Sure. Go for it.
Thank you, Mayor. So I've been getting a lot of calls and emails about HOA playgrounds, and I know that we don't control those being open. But is there a way we can be in communication with the HOA boards to talk to them about what they should be doing? Or I know one sent a letter out that they're going to clean them twice a day, or what the protocol is. Is there a way to do that?
Yeah, I think we have the ability through some of our existing contacts to contact HOAs. We would hope that they're following the CDC guidance and the Maricopa County guidance for some of. Yeah, we don't know, and we can't necessarily enforce what their cleaning policies are. As you know, we put caution tape around all of our amenities, so you can still use the park, but we know that we can't keep those playgrounds clean enough, and you hope parents are practicing some of those appropriate measures. So yes, I've talked to one, not in surprise, but one HOA manager who manages a bunch of HOAs, and they're doing their very best to keep those playgrounds clean, but it's just a never-ending task. So yes, we can do outreach, ensure that they know, but making sure they're complying is a little bit different story as far as being able to insist.
Yeah, the complying part I understand. But
Yeah.
as long as we can
Sure.
do the outreach part. So if I like in just District 3 alone, I have pretty relationships with just about every HOA board. Is there like a person on this task force I can send them or their email addresses to be in contact with, just for kind of updates?
I think we could use the city continuity group to at least start that dialogue, see what we have as far as HOA listings. I believe they have to be registered with us, but listings, so we can do outreach to all of them. I'll let Diane talk about
Okay.
that.
Thank you for that question. That's an excellent idea. We do have an HOA list for everything in the city of Surprise. We've just utilized that today, sending out census information, asking for their help. So we can absolutely. I believe the executive order did close playground amenities while leaving main parks open. So that's the kind of information that we can copy and paste from the governor's executive order, so they're aware. It's all about the education at this point.
You know, I had a call from the president of our HOA for the same reason. And some residents are saying, oh, you got to close your parks down. And he's saying, Ken, do we have to do that? But, you know, the amenities, I noticed the amenities don't have any tape around them or anything like that. So it really isn't out there. And to the management companies themselves, if you can get to the head of those management companies and let it trickle down to all their community managers that they need to get that word out and get it done, that's where you'll get your compliance, I think.
And we're happy to do that. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to be able to help them.
Yes,
right.
absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
The other outreach that Community Continuity's been doing is when these executive orders change and we hear about businesses or maybe HOAs that aren't compliant, they make a very friendly phone call to just say, hey, I don't know if you noticed, but the executive order changed yesterday. You may not be aware, but you know, you can no longer have people on your patio, or you can, and that's worked out very, very well. We've found it's almost always been not being able to keep up with the increasing executive orders and not an intent to violate. So I think that's a good opportunity.
Right.
To the chair.
Yes, Councilman Winters.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for that presentation, Tracy. Very enlightening.
Thank you, Councilman.
You know, we get a report from the governor every day about the people who had contracted the virus and the people that unfortunately had died from the virus. Do we do that with the city of Surprise?
So we don't receive that information broken down to the city level. The county releases it per county, the count per county. We, all of you have, I know the city manager has, I have received emails asking how many cases in the city of Surprise. I couldn't tell anyone because I don't receive that information. I will share, and I share this with everybody who asks, because we're at such a level of community spread, because we still know that the amount of positive tests or total tests that we've performed here in Arizona is only an indication of the availability of testing. We haven't distributed those tests robustly enough that we know that it's a true indication of what our illness is. That knowing if it's here in Surprise or if it's in this zip code, it's merely interesting information. It is not. If anybody in our community is waiting for it to hit their zip code or their neighborhood before they change how they behave, you know, that moment has passed. You know, it's everywhere. It is everywhere. We have all contacted or come into contact with someone who has the illness. We may not have become ill, but you can assume that that has happened for each and every one of us. So as much as I know a lot of people want to know how many in Surprise, for us, it's just not been a concern. And I know it's not anything that the county wants to report because it does tend to cause some level of distraction. And what we really want to message is don't worry about if it's in Surprise. It is in Surprise. It is in every community. We can bet on that.
Because I've had 2 phone calls and 1 email wanting me to tell how many cases in Surprise.
Sure.
I have no answer for that.
Yeah,
I
we
told
don't have an answer. I know some mayors have been asking for that information. I know that there are legal parameters that do allow for hospitals to inform first responders, our fire medical folks, when they've transported a positive case, so that they can self-monitor and make sure that they don't make others ill. That's different than, you know, how many cases do we have in the community? And of course, that's protected, HIPAA-protected information. So I get that people are asking that, and we're getting a lot of those questions, and I just try to redirect them and just let them know tons of information on our website, the county website, but it's of no consequence whether or not you know the cases are here. They are here, unfortunately.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes, Councilwoman Hayden.
Sorry, microphone. How many people have it, and we know how many have died. But out of those people that have it, how many have recovered already? How do we get that information? Because that's a positive reinforcement statement rather than live, die, because we don't have those totals that some have recovered. When do we take them off when those have recovered?
I don't, if I understand your question correctly, we don't necessarily take them off, but we have a running count of how many tests have been performed,
Okay.
how many have tested positive, and then we know how many deaths we have had. So we could do a little basic math and come up with that. The problem that we have is that we haven't diagnosed all the cases.
Right.
And we know that some people have survived the illness through just taking care of themselves at home. So maybe they didn't get tested at all, or they did get tested, but it wasn't severe enough that they had to go to the hospital. But I think there's probably a lot of cases out there where people are looking back over the last 2 months and going, oh my goodness, in February, I think I might have had this illness, but they've already recovered. So now I'm not a public health person in any way, but I know they're working on antibody tests, because being able to test our community at some point to see who's got the antibodies, that means that they had the illness, they successfully battled it, and that they're likely immune from catching it. That will help us understand how much of our community is still in danger. You know, what we need to keep planning on is to pace ourselves to keep people from being in close proximity and spreading the illness. If we let people out and into the world too soon, we will create that second and that third wave of illness. So it is a challenge, but the Maricopa County website, maricopa.gov/coronavirus, keeps the numbers updated, and then the Johns Hopkins University website is keeping research statistics for the entire world. So you can see the daily picture all the way down to, it has a map where you could narrow right down to Maricopa County. So a lot of people are interested in the facts of the statistics of it. So yeah, there's some good information out there.
Thank you. Thank you. And
I
thank
know,
you for
I know
doing
they
this.
were.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah, I know that I heard some comparisons this afternoon on coronavirus infections per 1,000. And New York was 7 per 1,000. California was like 0.2.
Yeah.
Washington was like 0.3. You know, it's just amazing the difference.
Well, it's very reflective of that dense population, that close quarters. So you have that population density that you can't avoid on a subway, on public transportation, on those busy streets where you're shoulder to shoulder. And it very much is indicative of how quickly the illness can spread. And so I guess in that case, we're very blessed that we're not stacked in on top of each other in that very densely populated city. You think that I heard the statistic this morning that over a third of the deaths in the United States are in New York City.
Yeah.
In New York City. That's that they had 700 deaths just yesterday or today.
Yeah.
In a day.
I know. It's really something.
That's
Do we have any idea whether it's seasonal?
Well, if
Is heat an enemy to
allegedly
this
yes,
virus?
that heat is an enemy in that it cannot survive independently without somebody spreading it for very long on surfaces. I don't know that heat. There was a story that our intel unit picked up about a member of government in a state in the southern United States who suggested a hot blow dryer blown up the nostrils would ensure that people would. This was a serious assertion. So no, but we have heard that hot weather is likely a little more stifling to the virus itself. But as far as helping people recover or once you're ill, no. But we have heard that our summer heat could slow it down. I don't know the dynamics of that.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thanks a lot, Tracy. This is really good stuff. Do you want to say anything, Mike?
No, good.
Anyway, really appreciate it, Tracy. I'm glad you're on on the team and on the ball, you know, and
Thank you, sir.
with Mark and the whole group. It's
It
great.
has been an entire group effort. We have an amazing team here. They're all just fantastic. We could not do it without that team and many others that their names will never be heard. But we
Appreciate
are
it.
doing an amazing job because we're a great team and we care about each other.
So if we want to wear a mask, do you have any?
So no, not that I can give you, sir. No, so if you want to wear a mask to keep yourself from, yeah, those are readily available. The cloth homemade masks. I know a lot of people are making them. They're on Etsy. They're at the grocery stores. What we're trying to do is conserve those medical masks for the first responders. But yeah, absolutely, they're out there and readily available. I happen to know that Mr. Frazier has an ASU mask available for a price. So,
You know what I thought? I talked to Hoover this morning about if we can get a surprise mask, you know, in purple surprise mask. Anyway, just a thought.
I will take it up with the team, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Tracy. All right.
Excuse me, Mayor?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's somebody that called late.
Yes.
She wants to talk about a non-agendized item,
That's
right?
correct. So it'd be called to the public. We just want to make sure that she's allowed to do that.
Go ahead.
She was trying to call through and she wasn't able to get through right
Okay.
away.
Let's.
So we have Kevin that can call her right now. Her
That
name
okay,
is
Robert?
Crystal Welty.
Yeah.
Crystal? Hello, Crystal? Crystal, are you on the phone?
Hello.
Hi
Yes.
there.
Yes.
So the mayor's going to have you speak. You're on speaker right now, and you have 4 minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You can go ahead and speak now.
Okay. Hello.
Hi, Crystal. Welcome. You're on the speaker.
Okay. Hello.
Yes.
Do you want me to go over what I wrote?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, you can read your statement into the record.
I think she understands what's going on.
She hasn't a clue.
Crystal?
Maybe she got cut off.
Hello? Is she still on the phone? Okay. Crystal, can you hear me? So Crystal has a written statement she sent to me. Do you want me to go ahead and read it into the record?
Yeah. Why don't you?
Okay, so her email says, to who it may concern, there is a plight that the coronavirus 19 has created and is not being realized. The closing of restaurants. Have you ever tried to drive a semi truck up to a drive-through window? Have you ever walked up to one and been refused food? They have every day. The restaurant is in the truck plazas have also been shut down. The bathrooms are closed, not even in the parks. No sanitary facilities. The semi-parking lots are all full. They are parking on the side of the streets. They are tired, hungry, and not safe. This is how the people we are depending on for supplies are being treated. We need to be an example. How, you ask? There's a piece of property at Grand Avenue and the 303. It could be cleared, food trucks there 24/7, porta potties and showers dropped, dumpsters and semi-parking. Problem in one area solved. There are 10 to 15 trucks every 20 minutes that go by there. Help me by giving me the support and fast approval to help our truckers. Eventually, there will be a state-of-the-art water and energy conservation building there to serve them. Can you help me expedite help for our truckers? Crystal Welty. Crystal, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Do you have anything you'd like to add?
I see this not only as a problem in Arizona, but a problem across the United States. And I feel that if we could put it out there and get some relief for our truckers, at least that are going through our state, maybe the other states, other people will catch on and they'll be able to provide the same assistance to them, because they're talking about quitting. I have cousins, I have friends that are all truckers, and they're just running within an inch of their lives, and they're not getting any support out here. I go up, I make bags for them of food. I go up and I give them to them. Some of them start crying, and they're also appreciative. You just have no idea the situation we've put these poor people in.
Thank you so much, Crystal. They're not going to be able to engage in conversation, but I will send your email to them so they'll be able to communicate with you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Talk to you later.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's all right. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Do we have anybody that has a future agenda item like to put on the council agenda? If not, we'll have city council reports. We'll start with Councilwoman Hayden.
Mike. I just wanted to say that I hope you're all taking care of yourselves. I know it's hard to stay home, but it's really not bad when you think of staying in a hospital. So
yeah,
let's think of that. You know, staying home is not a bad thing. It's just how it has to be right now. So that's number one. Number two, I was lucky enough to go out with the mayor and a couple other councilmen, and we gave gratitude gifts to the police, fire, and the hospital. I don't know who would help more. I've never enjoyed anything so much because they're all giving back so much. So I appreciate that very much. And I you know, my hat's off to them. They really are working hard to protect us all. That's it.
Very good. Vice Mayor Judd.
Thank you, Mayor. Not much to report. It's been pretty quiet. We've been staying home, staying healthy, and trying to stay connected.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good. Councilman Winters.
Nothing this evening, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Councilman Sanders.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I just want to thank, again, Mike and city staff for, you know, this is, I've never been through anything like this. And so seeing the leadership and the staff really taking control, I mean, even legal issues, Robert, I mean, I think it, you know, you guys are, I'm very impressed with the way things are working out. And I also want to thank the residents as well. I mean, the residents have really stepped up. Several initiatives are out there. People just helping those in need. You probably have seen ours here in Surprise, the hashtag Surprise Unites, where we have economic development involved with the banner program, and there's other programs that are be coming out as well. I just think it's been nice to see everybody come together and helping one another, especially in this time where so many of us have never been through anything like this. But again, I just want to thank everybody, and also if you can continue to patronize our restaurants as well, to help them out when and where you can, and everybody just please stay safe during out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Remley.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, this morning I got an email from Captain Mark Merritt from the Salvation Army. And some of us, we think of the bell ringer at Christmas time, but they do so many other things. He's just reached 3,500 meals that they've handed out to folks. They have a hot breakfast every morning and a sack lunch that they do on a drive-through basis. So, you know, and it is tax time coming up here. Another week, a lot of you will be filing tax returns. Remember that there is a tax credit that's available to you to donate to some of these organizations that help the working poor, up to $800 for a married couple, $400 for a single person. And some of these organizations like I just mentioned the Salvation Army, but also St. Mary's Food Bank and a number of the other ones that are really helping people out there. They could sure use that contribution right now to help some of those folks get through this. So thank you.
Very good. Councilman Duffy.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank our teachers. As Monday, we all kind of transitioned to online school, and it was not the easiest thing I've ever seen. I know in my neighborhood alone, the internet was down pretty much Monday and Tuesday.
Was it really?
Everybody signed on at one time. Of course, that's the day I got sent to work from home. So we were all trying to log on. But then not only are teachers trying to do lesson plans, they're also trying to train the new homeschool teachers too. And I can only imagine the emails we're sending back and forth to them. So I appreciate what they're trying to do and just keep it up. And then I also, my heart goes out to the seniors who won't get graduation, 8th graders who won't get graduation, and also kindergarten. That was so much fun last year watching my son do that.
We're talking about the high school seniors.
Yes, sir. So I feel for him. And I know proms got canceled, but just keep your head up. We'll get through this.
Yes,
Thank you.
Yes, we will. I just got I want to reiterate what Tracy talked about was there's been a lot of people want to know where does Surprise stand in the coronavirus, and we can't get it at a city level, and there's reasons for it. They want it just at the county level because if it is city and there's not very many cases, then people could relax their behavior. If there's a lot of cases, then that could cause a little bit of panic. So there's a reason for it. Okay, I know it's frustrating, but we only get it at the county level. I just want to say thank you to the frontline responders. You know, I mean, I just don't know how to articulate my gratitude and our gratitude for what they do. It's amazing. And we'll forever be indebted to our public service departments, our healthcare workers, our grocery store employees, our food pantry employees, and like the lady said, our truck drivers. Let's not forget the truck drivers. They're the supply chain. You know, if the trucks stop, we're hurt. So anyway, I just want to thank you for your bravery and risking so much to help preserve our public health. It's humbling what you're doing. I just want to talk about, just for a minute, the state of the city. We're going to celebrate our 60th anniversary as a city. And the council and I invite you to tune in for the 2020 State of the City video presentation, Wednesday, April 15th at 6 p.m. on Channel 11 here. And it'll also be on Facebook too, right, Diane? It'll also be on Facebook. Because we're going to take a look at significant achievements that have transformed our city and celebrate our progress we've made over the last 6 decades. So, and the State of the City video premiere will be carried live on Surprise TV online at www.surpriseaz.gov/surprisetv and via Facebook, like I just said. And if you're unable to tune into the premiere, the video will be rebroadcast on Surprise TV and will be available for viewing on the Surprise TV website. So if you're busy that night, you can watch it another night or another time. As our community faces unprecedented challenges during this time, the city feels it's important to deliver this message of where we've been, who we are, united, strong, and resilient. So, like everybody said, we're going to get through this. We know it's a tough time. It's tough for all of us. And we appreciate all the cooperation and all the heroic efforts that different citizens have done in this city. And we're going to be stronger for this. We really are. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn our city council meeting.
I'll second. Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. 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 We are adjourned.